With the release of the highly anticipated The Batman, I figured it would be the perfect time to stop and rank all 12 theatrically released Batman movies from worst to best. Let's do this. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ben. On this channel I love to talk about movies and TV, and if you also love to talk about movies and TV or just love to be on the ride with me, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. For a little bit of context, I adore the character of Batman. He's one of my favorite superheroes ever, if not my favorite. He's definitely my favorite DC character, and I just really adore the character of Batman. So all of these movies I had such a fun time watching for the first time or revisiting them. Now there are some stinkers on this list, but aside from that, there are a lot of movies that I really like to love on this list. With that being said, let's get started. Easily coming in last place is Batman and Robin. Now this movie is kind of known for being complete and utter trash. I know it has a little bit of a following. Some people are like, oh, it's self-aware, it knows what it is, that's why it's goofy and cheesy. No. Is it so bad that it's good? No. Is it absolute insanity at times? Yes. We're going to talk about Batman Forever a little bit higher up on this list, but I thought the dialogue there was bad. The dialogue here is atrocious. Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze is something else. I really hope that Matt Reeves does something with the character of Mr. Freeze in another one of his movies, hopefully, because I feel like that character could lend very well to a more grounded movie. Arnold just goes completely over the top, has some of the most ridiculous lines.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! Alright everyone, chill.
But at least it's fun to watch him be completely insane. Then you get to Poison Ivy, and everything is just so odd with her. There's this fever dream-esque sequence that just had me so baffled. There are a lot of horny women in these 4 Batman movies from that 1989 run to the 1997 run, and she is one of them. It's just really poor writing. Don't even get me started about Bane. He's just a walking thing, not even a person. No attempt at humanizing him at all. Multiple moments had me dozing off, and George Clooney as Batman clearly does not want to be there. He is the worst Batman by far. Don't even get me started on the zoom-ins / close-ups of the asses. Just above Batman and Robin, though, is Batman from 1966. Now, I had never seen this movie up until this watching of all the movies, and I was a bit of a fan of the 1966 show. I remember watching it when I was younger. Wasn't a hardcore fan. Obviously, this was like the real introduction to superheroes for a lot of people, and it is purely the definition of silly and cheesy. From the writing to the performances, even the action sequences with like the shark repellent, what the hell?
Hand me down the shark repellent bat spray!
But all of it is just trying to give the audience a fun time. Unfortunately, it doesn't do much more than that though. For me, except when I was laughing or cringing at the movie, I didn't really find it all that enjoyable. There are too many dialogue heavy scenes that weren't interesting to me. It wasn't all that entertaining, and it was honestly pretty boring. Coming in at number 10 is Batman Forever. Like I mentioned when I was talking about Batman and Robin, the dialogue here is rough. It thinks it's clever, but it's not. The direction is weird from Joel Schumacher. There's odd zoom-ins and weird camera angles. I know this movie as well has a little bit of a following. Some people actually do appreciate it. For me, I just didn't really like it. The CGI is heavily dated and very much so shows its age. Tommy Lee Jones is off the rails insane in this role, and to some people that was good. For me, for Two-Face, that did not work. Bat nipples? Jim Carrey is practically perfect as the Riddler, so at least that's fun to watch, but there is a better interpretation of the character higher up on this list. This is really just a silly take on Batman. Val Kilmer is just so stale as Bruce Wayne and Batman. He just stands there and looks pretty much with a straight face, not really bringing much to the character. Almost everything in here is just so cringe-inducing. I like the addition of Robin. I thought they could have done something really good with it, but instead it's just like this whiny teenager. But all in all, it's at least somewhat entertaining, but it's just a really odd movie. Incoming hot take, coming in at number 9, is Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Now, this is coming from someone who has not seen the Batman animated series, and that might be why I don't love this movie as much as other people. I do definitely want to watch that show, but this movie just did not work for me. I like the animation, it's fairly simplistic. Not something that I appreciated going back to the more simplistic animation style that we don't see much of today. I'll definitely say it's interesting to see a Bruce Wayne that wants to hang up the cape and get married. I just never found myself particularly engaged in this movie at all. It has a very short runtime, it's just about an hour and 20 20 minutes. It felt a lot longer than that though. Maybe after watching this show I'll have more appreciation for this movie, but as of right now, I was pretty disappointed. Coming in at number 8 is Batman Returns. I'll give this movie a lot of credit though because it maintains a pretty gothic and dark atmosphere throughout the entire runtime. The score is incredible and honestly better than it was in the first movie. The production design is excellent. It's Christmas time in Gotham City in this movie. And like I mentioned, this movie has a very dark and slimy look to it and the production design helps that. Now, Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I know a lot of people don't like him, and I don't really like him either. He's very disgusting, but I guess that's in a good way, though. I feel like that's what they were going for. The makeup team did a wonderful job at transforming Danny DeVito, though. He looks like a penguin, but the origin story for him is just so odd. It's like he literally is a penguin. That's just not really all that clever. It's really on the nose. And then Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer's character just gets like surrounded by cats and then like brought to life. I don't even know what it was. It was like an exorcism by the cats. It was very weird. I do feel like both of the Burton movies would have worked a little bit better with an R rating. But these movies were already a little too dark and they didn't do well at selling toys, which is what they were trying to do. And that's why the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin movie were made. So I get why it's just a little bit PG-13 and not too R. I just don't like the overall story. I never really feel interested in revisiting this one, and I just don't love this movie like I know a lot of people do. Just Above Batman Returns is a movie that I just struggled putting up. Is it above Batman Returns or is it below Batman Returns? But in the end, I decided to put it above Batman Returns. That's Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. I didn't feel like it was fair counting the theatrical released version of this movie, so I decided to do the Ultimate Cut. This is one that I really struggled with. I even struggled wanting to go back and revisit it. I almost didn't include it on this list, but I decided to include it. There's a lot of things in this movie that work well and that are interesting, but then you have so many other things that just make it frustrating in a movie that I don't want to go revisit. Some of the pros, the score is haunting, multiple scenes, especially a bunch of Lex Luthor themes, were definitely like nerve-wracking. I think the conflict between Batman and Superman is very strong, and it works well here in some cases. A big highlight of this movie are the action sequences. Zack Snyder continuously knows how to direct them. I think the Wonder Woman introduction is awesome, the theme just blasting. I love that theme and it's a really cool scene. But then you get to the cons. Jesse Eisenberg is horribly miscast. He's just not a menacing enough presence that Lex Luthor as a character so desperately needed. It felt more of like a comedic role. I could not take him seriously whatsoever. And I know this might be a little bit of a hot take. I'm not the biggest fan of Batfleck. I really just only see Ben Affleck. I don't see Bruce Wayne or Batman. And my god, this movie is so overstuffed. Even with the Ultimate Edition, which has a 3-hour runtime, 1 is very hard to get through because it's a very overlong movie, and 2, it just has too much thrown into it and has a very hard time juggling it all. The subplot with Lois Lane, which was added in the Ultimate Cut, it was just really glossed over in the theatrical cut. It bogs the movie down. I just don't care about this bullet that she's trying to find more information on. And it's just such a tough movie because it does a lot of interesting and good things like I mentioned, but every time it does something good or interesting, it just does another thing that's just bad. And like I mentioned, I continuously find myself not wanting to rewatch this. Then we have Batman from 1989. The iconic theme from Danny Elfman I absolutely love. It's arguably my favorite Batman theme, and Jack Nicholson is clearly having a blast as Joker. His performance is equally creepy as it is silly. Does he compare to a Joaquin Phoenix or a Heath Ledger? No. But it's still a wacky performance that works well in this movie and the Tim Burton world. This movie definitely has some pacing issues though. Starts off strong, then has a tendency to drag in the middle. I think Michael Keaton as Batman is just good. He has a lot of that nostalgia factor working for him. To me, he was just very stiff, like physically in the suit was very stiff. In the action sequences, it's just like he was moving his leg and moving his arm. I know that I can't imagine what it's like to be in a Batman suit, so I give him props for trying, but to me, it just didn't work. He is a bit better as Bruce Wayne, though, who is just charming, rich guy that Keaton plays well. Tim Burton brought a little bit of his style, but it's not too flashy or just overused. Except for the Prince songs, you can go without those easily. And Gotham City is very well done here. Coming in 5th place is the Lego Batman movie. I just love the self-aware humor and nature of this movie. It's stellar. I really had a smile on my face throughout the entire movie. I just kept laughing and finding myself having a fun time. The animation is so unique and so well done. I think it's just crazy how much time and effort they put into the stop motion and 3D stuff like that. Yeah, it's a little silly, but it is a movie targeted at kids and families. In that regard, it's understandable. But don't count this movie out, it's actually really deep. It does a great job at showcasing just how lonely it can be for Batman. He's a guy who pushes everyone away and doesn't want to let anyone in, but that's what he really is needing. He pushes everyone away so he doesn't have to lose anyone like he lost his parents, but that's what he's lacking as a person. And then when Robin comes into his life, he realized just how much he wanted and needed a family. There's so many hidden Easter eggs as well, a couple lines that I'm sure plenty of kids won't catch, like from Batman 89. And these are the movies that I would want my kid watching. It's fun for the whole family and not just dumb fart jokes. It's a movie that has a very deep message, and it's a great Batman movie. Coming in fourth place is a movie that I know plenty of people have in their top 3, if not their number 1, Batman Begins. I love the first hour of this movie. The origin stuff with Ra's al Ghul and all the fight and training, that stuff is superb. It's legitimately captivating from the start. I could not take my eyes off the screen. And we'll talk about him a little bit more higher up on the list, but Christian Bale is perfect as both Bruce Wayne and Batman. And is he my favorite person to play the Caped Crusader? I'm gonna say yes. Scarecrow is a solid villain, but nothing too special, especially when you have comparing to the likes of Joker or even Bane. Michael Caine as Alfred is actual perfection as well. He is just perfect casting. And I like Ra's al Ghul, especially Liam Neeson in the role. But the other 2 movies in the Nolan trilogy I just like more. In third place we have The Dark Knight Rises. Speaking of Alfred, Michael Caine in The Dark Knight Rises, absolutely brilliant. I would go as far as to say that he deserved an Oscar nomination. The heartbreaking scene at the end of the movie where he's just tearing up.
I'm so sorry. I failed you. You trusted me. And I failed you.
Talking about how he failed Bruce Wayne, that stuff hits. The direction from Nolan is incredible, and he just shows why he's one of the best to ever do it. I love the chase sequences around Gotham, though you can tell it feels not like Gotham City, more like a Chicago. It feels like a lot like just a big city that they filmed in. I'm sure that's hard when you want to have a really wide scope movie. It's a movie made for the big screen, but Gotham City is like a set. I can see how that stuff would be hard to make. I'll admit this movie is a little overstuffed, but not as overstuffed as Batman v Superman. A lot of people like to hate on Tom Hardy as Bane. I think he's very menacing and honestly really solid. It's impressive how intimidating he is, which works off of Batman so well because Batman is supposed to be this guy who injects fear into people. Bane injects fear into the guy that does all these things. I'll give you this though, it is hard to understand him, and that's on the sound department's part. Catwoman was a great addition. I think Anne Hathaway was pretty great. And the scene in the pit, oh, that is insanely inspirational. You want to get hyped up for something, watch that scene. I guarantee you will get hyped. And for someone that loves Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I obviously loved seeing him as Robin and would have loved to see more of him. Yes, we got a lot of him in this movie, but I'm talking maybe a spin-off movie or a show. That would have been so cool, but I don't think it's gonna happen. This movie has maybe the most unintentionally funny death scene of all time.
What the hell?
Speechless watching that, but god damn it, I love this movie. For all the hate that it gets, I'm a big fan of it. And then you get to the top 2. I really struggled figuring out what's gonna go in number 1, what's gonna go in number 2. I went with my gut here because I feel like number 2 is the better Batman movie, but number 1 just holds such a special place in my heart. Coming in at number 2 is the newly released The Batman. Now I have a full 12+ minute long review. If you want to check it out, I'll leave it linked right up above. But my god, this movie was everything I wanted, needed, and so much more. It's, like I said, arguably the best Batman movie we may ever get. It's a part detective story, part thriller, part action spectacle. All the things blended so well by Matt Reeves. He was truly the perfect director to bring into the DC universe, someone that they needed to revitalize their franchise, especially with more of a darker tone. He perfectly did it here. The performances from top to bottom are brilliant and spectacular. Paul Dano is the Riddler. He's who I was talking about. He is absolute perfection. Robert Pattinson, love him. Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, great. Colin Farrell, Jeffrey Wright, need I go on? Everyone is top notch. Captivating from start to finish. I was leaving the theater in absolute awe, and I loved this movie. And who knows, maybe it might top my number one day. But coming in at number one of my favorite movies of all time, The Dark Knight. I just couldn't dethrone this movie. It has been one of my favorites ever since I saw it like 5+ years ago. It was one of those movies that really got me into filmmaking and made me look at movies differently. I remember watching it for the first time and being absolutely blown away. The opening scene with the IMAX cameras, man, it is phenomenal, and it completely just goes right into the movie. As soon as those opening shot hits, you're in it. Heath Ledger, rest in peace, gives one of the most captivating and greatest performances of all time. There's so many great lines from him. Why so serious? But this movie is just special because it's so much more than a comic book movie. It really revitalized what it meant to be a comic book movie, a superhero movie. It is so much more than that. It's a truly riveting crime drama, and that's why it was so groundbreaking. It got Heath Ledger an Oscar for playing the Joker. It was very groundbreaking. Christopher Nolan's direction in The Dark Knight Rises was awesome, but here it's magnificent. This is arguably his best movie in my opinion. It's excellently edited as well. For an almost 3-hour-long movie, does not feel that length at all. The score is perfect in those nerve-wracking sequences. As it's building up, I just get chills. And Aaron Eckhart, who gets quite overshadowed because of Heath Ledger's incredible performance, but Aaron Eckhart, man, he is just incredible. The rise and fall of his character is one of the best arcs in any comic book movie, or even any comic book story. And after having read The Long Halloween, I can definitely see the influences it had on the story and Christopher Nolan and where he wanted to take the movie. You really do either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Brilliant action sequences, and I don't really feel like I need to go on. Everything about this movie is impeccably crafted. And like I mentioned, truly one of the greatest films of all time. But that is it. That is my ranking of all 12 theatrically released Batman movies. Make sure to let me know down below, what is your ranking of all those movies? If you want to throw in some more Batman movies that weren't theatrically released and I didn't mention here, you can include those. Thank you so much for watching this ranking, and if you did enjoy it, consider giving it a like as well as subscribing and hitting that notification bell to get notified whenever new videos like this go live. I had a blast making this video and watching all these movies, and I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, look forward to more videos coming soon. My name is Ben, people call me Meter, and I'll see you guys in the next one.